The Good Ride. Average riders helping average riders worldwide. So, here I am, just sitting here, enjoying the sampler. The perfect day for a sampler. Nobody's up on the hill. You can park right next to the lift, and I can just change out bindings all day and take laps. Now, I've ridden all these bindings before on other days, but today is the final day and it's the sampler. And this is the Good Ride review of the Union Falcor 2019 and comparison to some of the other bindings in the line that kind of fit, that kind of have a very similar fit to them and response and style. These are kind of all the upper tier bindings and some of my favorites. First off, upgrades this year. New ankle strap. It's just a little bigger. This is the old one on the Strata that was last year, I believe. And you can see the new one's just a little bigger, a little more comfortable, and a little more supportive. I think this was my favorite. This and the Team ankle strap on this binding here, on my Super Pro, which is the former Atlas, but now kind of like the Team ankle strap, is hands down probably one of my favorites of all time from Union. But I say this is right there, if not better than that, because it's a little more supportive, but yet it just doesn't feel like it really kind of like presses on you. So I love that upgrade. Ratchets are still amazing, just super easy on and off. These are some of the best toe straps in the business, and best ankle strap ratchets. I just think they're just doing a great job. You know, mini disc, I'm not sure if they updated like the Vaporlight tech on the base plate. It's kind of I'm kind of unsure, but you can see when you compare it to the Strata, there's a different material. This seems to be more rubbery and a little more damp. But here's the thing that I like about these. They twist okay, but you can kind of like rotate the heel cup pretty good to get like a little bit of high back rotation. So I push it in, you know, with my size 9s, I try to push it in all the way to 0 on one side and then to about 2 on the other, and it still seems to work with my 9 boot really well, and it still seems to kind of help me you know, just get on the toe ramp correctly. And one thing you'll notice is with these mini discs, you can kind of see here there's a area without you know, like without pattern here, and you want to line that up with your binding here because there's a cant, and you want to make sure it's canted properly so it works with you know, so it works there. So make sure you line that up. You know, these mini discs are pretty cool. They're Burton channel compatible, and they have some decent stance width adjustability. When you're so close between each one, it really helps. So, you know, you can also adjust this in and out. This one you can't, where like with the Atlas, you can adjust both sides. Same with the Strata here. And I really thought the T-Rice would be most comparable to the Ultra FC. And I felt like it wasn't. I felt like the FC was in its own world. It definitely had like, you know, it has a more supportive, more aggressive ankle strap, but it could be more prone to cause some discomfort if you crank it down too tight. Where this I felt was more crank friendly. It just comes down to the base plates. They're just so different. This is just so like minimal shock absorption and all about response, and this is kind of a nice balance between the two, yet very responsive. I'd say this is like a 4.5 out of 5, and this is just like a full-on like 5.1. you know, it's just like, it's just amazing. It's just throbbing hard 5, where this is just a pretty stiff 4, and it's very responsive and very cool. But I found that the biggest comparison today and the biggest similarities were the Union Strata and the T-Rice, which I thought would be not the case. I thought this would be more like comparable response-wise to the Atlas and such, but it really isn't. And the Strata has canting too. The Strata has a very similar, as you can see, kind of like, you know, base plate, just different materials with the base plate, and a little different high back. It's just a little softer, a little more twisty, a little shorter. No, yeah, just maybe a touch shorter. Actually, I was surprised. The Strata felt a little more damp. I don't know why, but this new rubbery tech is just a much more rubbery bottom than the Falcor. So it really surprised me. But I prefer this Falcor over the Ultra FC, or the FC Ultra, whatever you call it. And I even like it. I really had a good time with it today. You know, it's got decent shock absorption. This plastic that comes back here is not that hard, so it seems to interact with the stuff on the bottom. These toe straps are the best in the business. They just go right over the front of your boot, whatever boot you're in. I was in Vans Aura Pros today, which is a great boot to test with because it's not super responsive. So when you're in a responsive binding, you really feel it. And I tested with my lovely board I'd love to keep is the Capita Mercury. I just love this thing, and rode all these on that with these two, with this combo, this boot and these boots and this board. And it was a great way to kind of handle everything. So basically, kind of all the same as last year, except you're, you know, you've just got a nice new ankle strap, more supportive, bigger, more comfortable. You've got new adjustability, this kind of like variation and toolless adjustability, kind of just like you know, the Ultra FC. And I think it's just a nice tweak to what you had last year. The only thing I would say is don't get these if you plan. There are a lot of boards these days that have, you know, let's say 5x2 or 6x2 standard inserts, and then one set back way far, one pair that's kind of sits back that needs a full-size disc. So I would not get these if you plan on getting a set back, you know, using like slam backs, powder pack inserts, whatever they call them from whatever company. You get the Union Atlas with the full-size disc. You lose a little bit of butterability and a little bit of feel underfoot. But that's that. And I would say, you know, like this between the Union Strata, they're very similar. Like the Mercury just buttered really well with both of them. The one thing I was really surprised about was just this rubbery bottom just really has this dynamic energy underfoot. It just feels to give it a little more spring, a little more dampness. It really reduces vibration. This surprisingly felt a little better with shock absorption. And with shock absorption, I mean just kind of landing something, right? You know, just like giving you relief on your knees and, you know, your joints. Where the dampening, what I'm saying, when I say dampening, I mean, you know, reducing vibrations at speed and making the boards seem less chattery. Sometimes they overlap a little bit. Oh, sorry, guy. Sometimes they overlap a little bit, sometimes they don't. But, you know, in this particular case, I just felt like it was just like this Strata really, I mean, it's a really special binding. I'd say if you want just a touch more response, you know, then yeah, you can go Falcor. But if you want a little more dynamic energy underfoot, and you know, you're okay with the older Falcor ankle strap, but you just want a little lower high back, but very, very close. You know, it's not a slacker in any way for response. And a better price point, the Strata might be a great call. It's a binding I'm really excited about and really like it. So there you have it. You know, the T. Rice Falcor, still an amazing binding. Really love this ankle strap and really love this binding. I think it's a very close call between these two as to which one you want. The Atlas is still an amazing binding too. And if you need you know, if you have slam back inserts or powder pack inserts or set back inserts of any kind, then it's still the Atlas, which is still an amazing binding. But I really noticed just like how much more dynamic and easier to butter, just easier to like feel the board underfoot with these two bindings it was compared to the Atlas. So there you have it.